Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Tanvi Taneja, coming up in the next 30 minutes. Political violence continues to singe Bangladesh. Protest against the mob lynching of Deepu Chandra Das organized at Bangladesh High Commission in New Delhi, heavy security deployed. US President Donald Trump announces plan for new US Navy Battleships, calls them fastest and the most powerful. Australia poised to approve sweeping new gun laws, giving power to ban protests after deadliest mass shooting in decades. And Indian women's cricket team to play their second T20 international with Sri Lanka in Visakhapatnam this evening. Security situation in Bangladesh remains mired in a vicious cycle of political violence and protests again following the lynching of a minority member and the killing of a leader last week. Inqilab Manch on Monday warned of launching a movement to topple the Yunus-led interim government if justice is not ensured for the killing of its spokesperson, Sharif Osman bin Hadi, vowing to stay on the streets until the perpetrators and their alleged backers are brought to book. The warning came from the platform's member secretary, Abdullah Al-Jaber, at an emergency press conference held at Shahid Hadi Chattar in Dhaka. Jaber accused the authorities of negligence and evasion of responsibility, alleging that the absence of key advisors at official briefings showed a lack of seriousness over the murder. Announcing a protest procession and further street programs, Inqilab Manch said that it would decide whether to continue supporting the interim government or initiate a movement to oust it, reiterating its resolve to remain mobilized until justice is delivered. Meanwhile, heavy security has been deployed near the Bangladesh High Commission in New Delhi in view of a protest against the mob lynching of Deepu Chandra Das in Bangladesh. Members of the Prasar Bharati Hindi Bengali Sangathan, VHP and the Bajrang Dal are protesting near Durgabhai Deshmukh South Campus metro station against the atrocities against minorities in Bangladesh and the brutal mob lynching of a Hindu youth in Mymensingh, Bangladesh, Deepu Chandra Das. DD India's Akshay Dongre joins us from New Delhi. Akshay, these are really sizable crowds, gathered near the Bangladesh High Commission in New Delhi. Has this protest so far been peaceful by various Hindu organizations?
Well, yes, the protest has been peaceful. However, obviously, whenever there is protest and the police tries to stop the protesters from moving to a secured location, like an embassy or a high commission, there is obviously some friction that is seen between the protesters and the cops that are deployed for the security arrangement of the protected areas. Because unlike Bangladesh, India is still a country that adheres to international laws, to the Geneva Conventions that dictate that the protection of an embassy or a high commission is the responsibility of the host country, something that has been violated in Bangladesh when we saw images of protesters almost trying to attack the Indian High Commission that is there in Dhaka. Yes, the protesters are quite angry, and it's an understandable anger. A man was lynched and burnt in Bangladesh. The government is trying to hush it up under the carpet, stating that it's not a minority issue. It's just a law and order situation, and the culprits are being held accounted for their actions. However, the problem is it was a mob, a mob of people that were that were involved in the killing of that man who was innocent. He was he was not proven guilty of any charges. And the most terrifying images perhaps are the ones where Deepu Chandra Das is also speaking to the cops of Bangladesh police. He's pleading to the cops as far as the safety and security of his life is concerned. But it seems that the cops, instead of providing him with security, a national of Bangladesh with security, they handed him over to the mob that ultimately killed and burned him later, burnt his body. In full public display. So this is, barbarianism of epic proportions that we are seeing in Bangladesh. The government is absolutely not trying to, not able to control the internal issues like inflation, like a sort of, communal hatred that is spreading across the country, like unemployment, like all sort of issues that Bangladesh is encircled with. And Yunus government, instead of, working on those issues, is taking hatred against minorities and against India, that the country that is originally responsible for creation of Bangladesh. In fact, it was the country that supported the freedom revolutions that were taking place by the Mukti Bahini in 1970s. It's quite ironic to see that whether the government there is working on the payrolls of the ISI or Pakistani intelligence and military, because the kind of bonhomie that we are seeing in this government of Bangladesh and the Pakistani regime is quite telling on its own that what is happening in Bangladesh. So it's a major concern. However, talking about this protest, yes, protests are happening in Delhi. There is a lot of anger across the country. There is a lot of anger in as well, where Bangladesh and people like Hadi have been trying to stake violence. But we are a democratic nation, and we show our anger and our disagreement in a peaceful manner and in a democratically way of protests that is happening in Delhi as well.
Yes, there have been protests over the last few days outside the Bangladesh High Commission in New Delhi. This one clearly larger in nature and more sizable crowds still present near the Bangladesh High Commission. Thank you very much, Akshay Dongre, for reporting on this story. All right. US President Donald Trump has announced a bold plan for the US Navy to build a new large warship that he's calling a battleship as part of a larger vision to create a golden fleet. Trump made the announcement at his Mar-a-Lago resort in Florida. He said that the ship will be longer and larger than the World War II era Iowa-class battleships and will be armed with hypersonic missiles, rail guns and high-powered lasers, all technologies that are still being developed by the Navy.
Battleships are the largest, sturdiest, and most heavily armed vessel built specifically for naval combat. While America has built many new warships over the years, they've tended to be smaller and much smaller, and not conducive to where we are and where we're going, and peace through strength. These cutting-edge vessels will be some of the most lethal surface warfare ships. They will be actually the most ever built other than our submarines. We have submarines which will have, in many ways, even more lethality, and we have many of them under construction.
Further, Trump said that he does not like that photos of Bill Clinton are being released from the Jeffrey Epstein files, calling the move terrible.
But no, I don't like the pictures of Bill Clinton being shown. I don't like the pictures of other people being shown. I think it's a terrible thing. I think Bill Clinton's a big boy. He can handle it. But you probably have pictures being exposed of other people that innocently met Jeffrey Epstein years ago, many years ago.
Trump also argued that many people pictured with Epstein had nothing to do with him beyond being at the same events. Trump claimed Democrats, with the help from a couple of bad Republicans, are pushing the releases as a political distraction. He framed the renewed Epstein focus as an effort to deflect from what he called the tremendous success of the Republican Party. The Australian government of New South Wales is preparing and drafting tighter national gun and hate speech reforms following mass shooting that killed 15 people at a Jewish Hanukkah celebration at the Bondi Beach. It was a shock attack that has prompted calls for tougher gun laws and stronger action against anti-Semitism. The new rules will cap the number of guns an individual can own to 4 or 10 for exempted individuals like farmers. The legislation will also ban the display of terrorist symbols, including the flag of Islamic State, which was found in a car linked to one of the alleged shooters. And it will give authorities power to prohibit protests for up to 3 months following a terrorism incident. Premier Chris Minns said that the laws will be a clear message and clear progress to keep the people of New South Wales safe.
Through planning law or hate speech to send a message to those who are intent on putting hate in people's heart or spreading racism in our community, that they will be met with the full force of the law, and that's exactly what's happened today.
So the Australian government said that it was preparing and drafting tighter national gun and hate speech reforms.
The Commonwealth Firearms Reform Package includes a gun buyback scheme, intelligence sharing, import controls for firearms-related goods, new offences relating to 3D printed firearms, and consideration of removing merits review at different parts of the application process.
Further, Australian Prime Minister expressed regret on the politicisation of the issue and called for political unity at a time of crisis.
This is a time where the nation needs to come together in unity and with that sense of purpose. This is not a time for people to look for political product differentiation for the sake of it. And I'll continue to argue for unity. I'll continue to conduct myself in a way that's consistent with that call for national unity.
In a bid to secure peace in war-torn Sudan, United States has urged Sudan to accept their peace plan during UN Security Council meeting. US representative to the United Nations said that the responsibility to end the civil war in Sudan lies with the Sudanese armed forces and the paramilitary rapid support forces. Sudan's civil war between the RSF and the Sudanese armed forces started in April 2023 and has displaced millions and killed tens of thousands of people. During a speech to the United Nations Security Council on Monday, the ambassador urged both belligerents to accept this plan without preconditions immediately.
The onus is on the Sudanese armed forces and the rapid support forces to end this horrifying conflict now. Under President Trump's leadership and at his direct instruction, Secretary Rubio and Senior Advisor Boulos have offered a way forward via a humanitarian truce. We urge both belligerents to accept this plan without preconditions immediately. We also call on all parties to honor their humanitarian commitments, including refraining from attacking civilians and allowing full, safe, and unhindered humanitarian access throughout the country.
Sudanese Prime Minister Kamil Idris thanked US President Donald Trump and US Secretary of State Marco Rubio for helping to advance the peace process in his country. Earlier, Rubio had said that Washington's immediate goal on Sudan is cessation of hostilities going into the new year that allows humanitarian organizations to be able to deliver assistance. During the UNSC meeting, Idris stressed on the conflict's trajectory, humanitarian needs, and regional implications.
The Government of Sudan Peace Initiative is born not from illusion, but from necessity, not from victory, but from responsibility. It is a deliberate choice to replace chaos with order, violence with law, and despair with hope.
Still to come on this edition of DD India Live. India is proud to have stood by Sri Lanka during Cyclone Ditwa, says External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar in Colombo. India marks National Farmers' Day today to mark the birth anniversary of Chaudhary Charan Singh. And in a landmark move, the BCCI approves uniform A structure for women's domestic cricket. Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I am Tanvi Taneja. US President Donald Trump has said that the United States needs Greenland for national security, citing growing Russian and Chinese presence in the Arctic region. He implied that Greenland is needed for national protection and economic development, not for minerals, as he appointed Louisiana Governor Jeff Landry as his special envoy for Greenland. The move drew criticism from Denmark and Greenland over Washington's growing interest in the mineral-rich Arctic island. We have a report. President Donald Trump reasserted on Monday that the United States needs Greenland to become part of the United States. He named Louisiana Governor Jeff Landry as his special envoy to Greenland, drawing renewed criticism from Denmark and Greenland together.
We need Greenland for national protection. They have a very small population. And I don't know, they say Denmark, but Denmark has spent no money. We need Greenland for national security, not for minerals. And if you take a look at Greenland, you look up and down the coast, you have Russian and Chinese ships all over the place.
Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen and Greenland's Prime Minister Jens Frederik Nielsen earlier said in a joint statement that Greenland belongs to Greenlanders. Nielsen followed with a rather terse comment on social media. He said that the announcement of an envoy may sound big, but does not change anything on the ground. Greenlanders will decide their future. Denmark summoned American ambassador for a meeting together with the Greenlandic representative and asked for an explanation. Support from the European Union was also quick and firm.
Preserving the territorial integrity of the Kingdom of Denmark, its sovereignty, and the inviolability of its borders is essential for the European Union.
Trump has advocated for Greenland, a self-governing Danish territory, to become part of the United States, citing its strategic importance and mineral resources. Bureau Report, DD India. Moving on to the Russia-Ukraine conflict now. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is expecting a report from his negotiating team on a proposed peace plan following talks with the United States. The discussions held in Miami with representatives of US President Trump focused on bilateral security guarantees and an economic recovery plan for Ukraine. Zelensky said substantial work has been done on a 20-point peace plan, but stressed that any progress depends on Russia showing real willingness to end the conflict. Meanwhile, US intelligence continues to warn that Russian President Vladimir Putin has not abandoned his broader territorial ambitions. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar called on Sri Lankan President Anura Dissanayake in Colombo today. He conveyed Prime Minister Narendra Modi's warm wishes and message of solidarity as he is visiting Sri Lanka as a special envoy of the Prime Minister to follow up on relief and reconstruction efforts in the wake of Cyclone Ditwa. Building on our first responder activity under Operation Sagar Bandhu, India will commit to a reconstruction package of $450 million to Sri Lanka that will cover rehabilitation and restoration of road, railway and bridge connectivity, Construction of houses fully destroyed and partially damaged. The package will also support health and education sectors, in particular those that have been damaged by the cyclone. Operation Sagar Bandhu on November 28th delivered hundreds of tons of relief supplies and critical early recovery capabilities across Sri Lanka, including in areas rendered inaccessible by the cyclone. Dr. Jaishankar delivered remarks alongside his Sri Lankan counterpart Vijita Herath in Colombo. He said Operation Sagar Bandhu overall delivered around 1,100 tons of relief material.
India's relief and assistance mission, Operation Sagar Bandhu, commenced on the very day that Cyclone Ditwa made landfall. Our aircraft carrier, INS Vikrant, and another ship, INS Udaygiri, were present at Colombo and delivered relief materials, and thereafter also deployed helicopters.
India marks National Farmers' Day on December 23rd to remember Chaudhry Charan Singh's birth anniversary. This year's theme focuses on farmer-producer organizations and their role in building a Viksit Bharat, developed India by 2047, with record food grain production and a five-fold surge in agriculture budget. And schemes like PM Kisan Samman Nidhi benefiting over 9 crore farmers, this day has huge significance. DD India's Rahul Upadhyay filed this report.
National Farmers' Day, also known as Kisan Divas, is celebrated annually on December 23 in India to recognize the vital contributions of farmers to the nation's economy and food security. This date commemorates the birth anniversary of Chaudhry Charan Singh, the 5th Prime Minister of India and a dedicated champion of farmers' rights and rural development. Officially instituted in 2001, the day honors his enduring legacy as one of the most prominent agrarian leaders in post-independence India. This year's theme, Viksit Bharat 2047, the role of FPOs in globalizing Indian agriculture, underscores the pivotal contribution of farmer-producer organizations in elevating Indian farming to global standards. FPOs empower small and marginal farmers through collective bargaining, enhanced access to advanced technology, quality inputs, institutional credit, and international markets. By strengthening supply chains, boosting agri-exports, and fostering sustainable, market-driven practices, FPOs are instrumental in realizing the vision of a developed India by 2047. The Government of India continues to prioritize farmer welfare and agricultural growth. The budget allocation for the Department of Agriculture and Farmers' Welfare has surged nearly fivefold, from 27,663 crore rupees in 2013-14 to over 1.22 lakh crore rupees in recent years. Reflecting this support, India's food grain production has risen impressively from 265 million tons in 2013-14 to record levels in recent seasons, demonstrating enhanced productivity and resilience in the sector. The government has introduced several transformative initiatives to uplift farmers. Pradhan Mantri Kisan Samman Nidhi, PM Kisan, an income support scheme for cultivable landholding farmers providing Rs 6,000 per year in 3 installments. 21 installments have been paid to over 9 crore farmers. Pradhan Mantri Kisan Man Dhan Yojana, PMKMY, a voluntary pension scheme for farmers aged 18 to 40, offering 3,000 rupees monthly pension after age 60. Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana, PMFBY, restructured weather-based crop insurance scheme, RWBCIS, delivers affordable crop insurance covering over 4 crore farmers annually across most states and union territories. Modified Interest Subvention Scheme, MIS, offers concessional short-term loans up to 3 lakh rupees at 7% interest, benefiting over 7.75 crore Kisan credit card holders. Agricultural Infrastructure Fund, AIF, a 1 lakh crore rupees financing facility for post-harvest infrastructure and community assets. Formation and promotion of 10,000 FPOs, a central scheme to boost farmers' bargaining power, reduce production costs, and increase incomes through aggregation and scale. National Beekeeping and Honey Mission, NBHM, promote scientific beekeeping under Atmanirbhar Bharat, driving the sweet revolution, with India emerging as a leading global honey exporter. Namo Drone Didi equips 15,000 women's self-help groups with drones for rental services and fertilizer and pesticide application. National Mission on Natural Farming, NMNF, targets 15,000 clusters across 7.5 lakh hectares and 10,000 bio-input resource centers for sustainable practices. Pradhan Mantri Annadata Ai Sanrakshan Abhiyan, PM Asha, aims to ensure remunerative prices for farmers by strengthening the MSP system. The government's unwavering commitment to farmers' welfare stands out through visionary policies, substantial investments, and groundbreaking initiatives, from surging budget allocations and record food production to transformative schemes empowering millions. These efforts are propelling Indian agriculture towards global excellence, ensuring prosperity, security, and pride of every Annadata who feeds the nation. Rahul Upadhyay's report for DD India.
And on to some sporting news now. After cruising to a comprehensive win in the opener, India women cricket team will look to tighten their grip on the 5-match T20 series when they take on Sri Lanka in the second game in Visakhapatnam on Tuesday. India will start as favourites again, while Sri Lanka searches for consistency. And in a landmark move, the BCCI, Board of Control for Cricket in India, approved a uniform pay structure for women's domestic cricket. Senior players in the playing 11 will now earn 50,000 rupees per day, with reserves receiving 25,000. The hike aims to attract more talent and strengthen women's cricket, though pay gaps with men's domestic players remain. That's all for this edition of DD India Live. Do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. Connect with us on our different social media handles at DD India Live. And you can also download our DD India mobile app for quick news and updates on the go. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Tanvi Taneja from all of us here in New Delhi. Thank you for watching. Namaskar.